Well, we're in a new month. And a new month is a new theme. And it's interesting because last month, the theme was transformation, and I was utilizing the Way of Mastery for most of my references in that theme. And as I was closing up the book, I thought, I'm not quite done with this book yet. And so I decided this month that I was going to work with the theme, the Way of the Heart, which is one of the sections in the Way of Mastery. And I wanted us to start the merry month of May with Love Heals All Things. And I wanted, as I put in the thought for the week, Abraham Lincoln said people are just about as happy as they make up their minds to be. And I think that's true. I mean, all of us have our troubles, our worries, our woes, and all that kind of thing. But if we set our intention to be happy, regardless of what life throws us, then I think that we're on more solid ground to be able to respond with that merry heart. And it takes the intention. It takes knowing what we want in life. And wanting more happiness is a good thing. Ernest Holmes says, change your thinking, change your life. And so what we want to constantly be remembering is that we're changing our thinking to what we want in life. Love heals all things. I think a happy heart is a healing heart, is a healthy heart, is a whole heart. And when I say a happy heart, I'm not just talking about those superficial things that are guided by the ego. I am talking about a happy heart that knows its oneness with the One, that knows its eternality. Our superficial happiness can come in a lot of different ways. And we all experience those. It can come in chocolate. It can come in getting my way. And it can come in a winning baseball team. Well, if you're a Padre fan, as I have been for many years, they, again, are demonstrating their ability to be the farm team for the National League, and their numbers are askew. You always look at how a baseball team goes, and if they're above 500, if they win more than half their games, they're in good shape. And let's see again, I think they're, 12 and 18, or even worse than that. So our Padres aren't giving us a whole lot of reason to be happy. But remember, though, this is the important thing, is that those items, the chocolate, the team, getting my way, those are, yes, fun things, happy things in life. But none of those things are going to heal us. When you look at the word heal, what that is referring to is returning to wholeness. That's what healing is about, revealing our wholeness. And so if we look at those superficial things in life to give us our wholeness and our happiness, we are falling short of our true self. And in fact, it's a pretty good indication to just be aware and look at, am I accelerating? Am I magnifying those superficial things in my life to make me happy? Am I trying to increase my chocolate intake? Am I increasing whatever the intake is of the superficial things in order to heal? I'm sorry, it ain't going to happen. All you're doing is putting a Band-Aid on it, and you are not getting down to the core, are you? If you have a hole in your soul, you need to go to the soul and heal it with this unconditional love that we are in our core being, our true self. Eckhart Tolle said the moment you become aware of the ego in you, that ego is the one that loves the chocolate and all of that, right? The moment you become aware of the ego in you, it is strictly speaking no longer the ego, but just an old conditioned mind pattern. Ego implies unawareness. Awareness and ego cannot coexist. Do you hear the nuance there? In other words, when you recognize, oh, that's my ego happening here. This is my ego. Once you are aware of that, that's the ego, yay. You have stepped over the threshold of no longer having the ego drive you, but you are aware. We are aware that we have a true self. Deepak Chopra said the reason that ego and love are not compatible comes down to this. You cannot take your ego into the unknown, where love wants to go. If you follow love, your life will become uncertain, and the ego craves certainty. Isn't that true? Love, the essence of the energy of love, unconditional love, that's unknown territory. And that's our true self. That's really what we are, is this unconditional love. Our true self is that. Our true self knows that when we follow the path of love, it's okay. It's solid ground. It's the uncertainty is not going to harm us. That no matter where we are, we're safe. Because there is this something within and around us that is guiding us, that is leading us, that is taking us into this unknown. And it's fine. It's okay. Our true self also knows that as we are one with life, life is one with us. It is reciprocal. That as we give out, we get back. Each of us is creating from the energy that we are accessing our own lives. The Way of Mastery says, the question then is, what will you create in each moment? Far beyond the great thrill of the magic of creating events and objects in the third dimensional reality are qualities that you create, such as peace, unlimitedness, forgiveness, compassion, and wisdom. These too are creations. Your union with God does not even exist for you until you decide to open to the lived experience of it. For a creator to understand their infinite power to create and who understands that it is going on ceaselessly, then turns to look upon every moment of their experience that they might discern what choice they must have made to bring about the effects they are currently experiencing. Learn ceaselessly from your creation. For in this way you begin the process of dissolving the creation of an unlightened being, and you begin to build the creation of the Christ, here and now, in this moment. Look at your life. Look at what you are creating. Take ownership of it. Look what I created! Do you believe that you can create as the Christ created? Do you believe that you have that ability to be the Christ in expression? Do you believe it? Do you accept that? Jesus, the master teacher who became the Christ, taught us, John chapter 14 in John, verse 12, truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me shall do the works which I do, and even greater than these things he shall do, because I am going to the Father. There is this oneness that we talk about. And that's what the Christ consciousness is a oneness with love. That was Jesus' whole theme and teaching, was that of love. When someone asked him, what is the law? He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second one is like unto it, love your neighbor as yourself. It's all about love. Now, many of us who are raised Christian, that's a very familiar verse that we know, that that's what Jesus taught, that we are to love God and we are to love our neighbor as ourself. Some people who weren't raised Christian might not be aware of that. But what the teaching in the Way of Mastery is, what the teaching is in our Science of Mind textbook, the religious science textbook that Ernest Holmes wrote, there's a whole section in the Science of Mind textbook that goes from page 427 to 504 that talks about the teachings of Christ, the teachings of the New Testament. And what these teachings are about are the universal Christ consciousness. You don't have to be a Christian to have the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness is universal. What it's saying is that we are one with the Creator. I and the Father are one. That I love truly, totally, unconditionally God, myself, and all. So is there anything left out? What's left out of the love quotient? Anything? We're going to love it all, just as it is. You know, the second teaching that Jesus brought us, I believe, in his time that he was here on earth, the other thing that he really emphasized was that of belief. It is done unto you as you believe. What do you believe? And that's what in our teaching we emphasize quite a bit, because when we look at our creations, when we look at our life, that is going to tell us our beliefs. Many times we're not aware of it. We don't recognize it. Things show up and we think, how did that happen? I didn't call on that. I didn't want that. I didn't ask for that. But somewhere in our consciousness, that was drawn to us, for life is reciprocal. Life gives us what we have need of. It is a gift, it is a lesson, it is a blessing. But love, that energy of love is in it somewhere, somehow. You know, we can look at what's happening in our life and we can deny it. We can say, the devil made me do that. That really wasn't me. I'm not going to take ownership of that. And we can go about life in that denial as much as we want. But for us to become spiritually mature, enlightened, enlightened beings, we need to get above and beyond that somebody else did it. Don't look at me. Michael Beckwith, in his visioning process, is talking about the 4 stages of spiritual maturity, and the first stage is that victim stage where life is happening to me. And we all have that. I'm sorry, we don't get over it at one point or another. It is not linear. You can't just check it off. Okay, now I'm in stage 2 and 3 and 4, and I'm one with God, and everything is wonderful. We have moments. We have moments of each stage, correct? And so when we find ourselves experiencing that victimhood stage, and we know it, how do I get out of it? What do I have to do? Well, he says what you can do is you can go into that meditative state, come into that quiet place, and ask, what quality must I birth in order to bring myself out of this stuck position? What quality must I birth in order to change the experience that I'm in? The Way of Mastery had a real cute way they talked about not having enough gold coin in your purse, or not having enough money, and that somehow how did I bring about this experience of lack in my life? When we look at the world, when we look at what God has created, is there any lack? There is abundance. There is infinite abundance. Look at the number of grains of sand on the beach. We can't even count them. We all have air to breathe. The trees and everything works together to give us life on this earth in abundance. So what is the quality that I need to birth in order to generate and accept the abundance that's here? If I want to allow myself to be compassionate, that's a quality that I want to birth. But in order to birth any quality, there is this dual-edged sword, because you need to give up something. In order to have compassion, in order to bring compassion as a quality in my life, in order to experience compassion, what do I have to give up? Judgment. Being right. Judgment. If I want to experience patience in my life, what do I have to give up? Control. That's the ego. And the ego loves to be in control, right? Because it doesn't want to go into those unknown places. And so for every quality that we want to birth to bring us into this wholeness that we are, we need to give up the lesser. We need to accept the greater and release the lesser. This is springtime. How many of you are doing your spring cleaning? Isn't that the thing we're supposed to be doing, right? You go back in the cobwebs, you go back in the corners. Well, moving will help you do that. I emptied 5 boxes last night. Yes! And remodeling. I have been working at Erickson Insurance for almost 23 years. And that building was built in the 1960s. And other than new carpeting and new paint, it really hasn't had any type of extensive renovations done. So it's now a third generation, and the third generation, Landon, he's like 25, and he's a go-getter. He says, "Dad, we got to update this place. This is ridiculous." And, because as technology happens, so we ran the wires, just along the walls and around the ceiling. You can't believe the amount of poundage of wires that they pulled off of these walls in upgrading. We got the drop ceiling. We had popcorn ceiling. Got the drop ceiling now, and the light, and this is a major renovation. Well, everybody has to do their part, because all of the desks have to be moved, to put in the new flooring and painting and such. So you're going to go through everything in your desk and root it out. Get rid of what you no longer need, what no longer serves you. And it's been an interesting experience. I mean, I'm looking at my desk and I'm finding these manuals, these books I studied when I went into insurance in 1984. I still had them, thinking, if I don't know this stuff by now, this is a sorry state. I don't think I need these anymore. I can throw these away. I had a friend, our accountant, she comes over here, "Hey, look what I found, look." And she had a file folder. It was filled with carbon paper. I don't think I need this anymore. So as we are rooting out, we're really seriously looking at, do I really need this? Because what happens in our lives? We keep those same thoughts. We keep those same feelings that we've had forever, that we don't even notice them anymore. We're so comfortable with them. They're just there. But what they're doing is taking up space. You've got to root out those old thoughts, those old harmful feelings that we carry around with us that are heavy on our back, ooh, and let them go. Step into the newness of today and say, this is the day that the Lord has made. I shall rejoice and be glad in it. Those are our true I believe every one of us is hardwired with this love, with joy, with peace, with this divine energy that is just infinite and abundant. There is no lack. There is no less than. There is only forging forth into the unknown of an even greater yet to be. And that's really our job. That's what we're here to do. We are here to accept and step into being the Christ. He told us you can do it. All you have to do is do what I do. Listen to me, do what I do, and we know what it is. It's loving God. It's loving ourselves. It's loving our neighbor. It's letting go of all of these expectations of what should be and what isn't and what's wrong. And know that life is giving us everything. Everything that we have need of. Right now. Judge with right judgment. I think that we are here to create a life of love. A life of joy. A life of peace. That kind of love truly heals all wounds. Go back to it. Be friends with it. Get into that contemplative state, into your heart of hearts. And trust this divine being to lead you into the unknown. To give you what you have need of. It is personal. For we each are this one unit, individualized expression of life. We are doing it our own way, and it is perfect. Trust yourself. Trust life. Let your path lead you to this love that you are. And you know what? You're going to be merry. You're going to have a happy life. And you need to trust, and you need to know that with God, love, all things are possible. Go out there and have a great, merry month of May. And so it is.